This week we're going to talk about equal playing time. We recently talked about rotation of positions. Equal playing time for me is another massive thing that's important in grassroots football, especially in the foundation phase, and becomes a real topic of debate amongst coaches and parents. So it becomes a huge issue, this, in grassroots football, and I'm going to give my reasons why I think it's important, especially in the foundation phase. Now, coming on to what do I think and when would I change it? Foundation phase for me is equal playing time all around. Once you get to 11-a-side football, 13s, 14s, I don't think it needs to be equal, but I think everyone should get at least a half of each game. Once you get to 16 plus, that for me is when it goes, right, now we're competing, where the best players will play. No one's guaranteed playing time because now you're trying to get that introduction into senior football. The one caveat I'd give to that though is depending on what your values are as a club and what your culture is, because even at 16 to 17, 18, if your club is all about participation and social football and it's not about developing players to play for a first team, then this should remain, the equal playing time should remain then. So it will come down a little bit to your culture as a club, your philosophy as a coach as well, but I'm just talking in the general terms of if we're looking at long-term player development, especially at grassroots level, what should we be doing in regards to equal playing time? And for me, especially foundation phase, doing it and then tapering it off as they get older. And one of the things there is it aligns with the values of grassroots football. Grassroots football is about participation. It's not until you get to that senior level, 16 to 18, you would argue is still not senior level. Maybe you would say reserves and 23s and first team is the only senior level. But actually, the values of grassroots is about participation, it's about playing with your friends, it's about learning, it's about physical exercise. So it does align with the values of grassroots football, and this is why we should be doing equal playing time. The other thing now is, and the most important thing for me, is it helps you develop all players. Now I lose count of how many times I've seen a player at under sevens score loads of goals because they're physically dominant. Everyone thinks they're the best player, so they play every game because they help you get results, and they play all of the game every game, and some of your other players get left behind. Typically it's the smaller players because they're less effective, and then what happens is though, those smaller players normally, because they're not physically as dominant, will have to develop their technical ability a lot more than those stronger players. What will happen then is once they catch up physically, they'll technically be better. So if you're not technically challenging the stronger player, they're actually just going to stop developing. Whereas a smaller player that takes on the information and will keep developing. But everyone's at different development stages. So we've got to give people the opportunity and players the opportunity to develop. So they should be playing the same amount of time to develop the skills, develop the game understanding. Even if they're not as effective in the game, they might not win you the game. They all need an opportunity because they're at different development stages and they need to be able to play and learn. Now, also in grassroots, you're part of a team and part of a squad. If you're the player that never starts or always starts as sub or doesn't play as much and plays 5 minutes here and there or only plays in the games that are the easier games, they're not going to feel part of a team. By doing equal playing time, they're going to feel part of a group. They're going to feel like they belong to a group, and that's what it's all about. Make sure they feel part of the team and part of the group. Now, it's not just about equal playing time, it's about making sure that it's different players starting as well. It's not always the same players starting. So once you increase that belonging to the team, you're going to increase the bond of the team and create a unit. When you've got a good unit as a team, it makes your life a lot easier as a coach. And the players should support each other, they should help each other develop. You will always have players that at the moment are excelling and some that are finding things difficult, but you can create a team unity which makes your life easier when you're trying to then challenge them, or if they find things difficult, they'll stick up for each other, help each other. But you want to create that bond between the players. One thing from my experience, and this is where I first coached and I was doing equal playing time, we made a sub, we had 40-minute games, seven aside, we had 10 players. So every 13 minutes, 13 and a half minutes, we made 3 subs. Then the next 13 and a half minutes go by, we make the other 3 subs. Everyone played the same amount of time. It worked out perfectly. One thing that happens psychologically then is when a player was being subbed, they were only 7 years old at the time. They were coming off going, right, it's just my turn to be subbed. there was no reaction of I'm being subbed because I'm not good enough, or I'm being subbed because I've made a mistake, or my coach isn't happy with me. So it took away those negative feelings that players might have when they get substituted off. All they knew was, right, it's just my turn. Right, we all play the same amount of time, it's just my turn to come off. And they were fine with that, and it took away any negative feelings that the players might have associated with that game or that moment in time. Once we start to do all this, players will become more loyal to you as a coach and to the team, and you'll build that loyalty. They know the standards, they know what they're getting. You should hopefully then get less players flitting around other teams and moving because they're not getting enough playing time, etc. You might lose the ones that think they deserve to play all game because they're better. And to be honest, you let them go. If they don't want to buy into the team, they don't want to buy into the unit, they don't want to buy into the philosophy, they think they're better than everyone else, or their parents think they're better than else, you're better off without them anyway. Might it mean you don't win as many games? Yeah, it might not, but that's okay, because you've still got your group that you can develop and you can work with. And then ultimately, going back to actually, this is grassroots values, this is grassroots football, you'll prevent players dropping out of the game. Players drop out of the game because they're not getting enough playing time, they're not feeling confident enough, they don't feel part of a group or the team. And that's ultimately going to lead to players dropping out of the game, which we don't want. You don't want to be the coach that someone, when they get older, says, I love playing football, but I stopped playing because of this coach, because they've done this or this. So you'll retain more players in the game. So coming on to my point then, as they get older, that's when you probably need to start tapering it down, but everyone should still play, especially in those teenage years. They should still be playing, they should still be taking part. 16 to 18 in my personal philosophy is where I start to then go, all right, I'm going to make substitution based on the game, because I'm looking at developing them for adult football, which they should be comfortable playing 16 plus, and that is then about results. So I would have honest conversations with players at that point, but if you have given them all an opportunity up to 16 of equal playing time, you've helped every player develop, they should all be good enough to then participate in fixtures. It might mean that sometimes they're 15, 20 minutes, might mean they're 60 minutes, 90 minutes. That comes down to what you pick in the situation that you're in. But that is what I would do, is wait till they're 13 to 16, still let them do a half each, because they're still developing. I know loads of players that then go for a growth spurt at 14, 15, 16, and all of a sudden become the most effective players in the group. Because they've had equal playing time before and they've had experience and exposure, they've still got that solid foundation of their technical, tactical, psychological side, that once their physical side develops, they can then excel and really reach their own potential. So that's it for today. That's my discussion point around equal playing time, why I think it's important. If you agree or disagree, that's no problem. Put that in the comments, put that everywhere that you think, and I'll have a debate about that, no problem at all. Until next week, that is today's podcast.